attacks of September 11th are the clearest examples of blowback in modern international relations. In the initial book in this trilogy, I predicted the likely retaliation that was due against the United States, but I never foresaw the terrorist nature of the attacks, nor the incredibly inept reaction of our government. On that fateful Tuesday morning in the early autumn of 2001, it soon became clear that the suicidal rammings of hijacked airliners into symbolically significant buildings were acts of what the Pentagon called asymmetric warfare, a rare instance in which bureaucratic jargon proved more accurate than the term terrorism in common use. I talked with friends and colleagues around the nation about what group or groups might have carried out such attacks. The veterans of our largest clandestine war, when we recruited, armed, and sent into battle Islamic Mujahideen, freedom fighters, in Afghanistan against the Soviet Union in the 1980s, did not immediately come to mind. Most of us thought of Chileans because of the date. September 11th, 1973, was the day the CIA secretly helped General Augusto Pinochet overthrow Salvador Allende, the leftist-elected president of Chile. Others thought of the victims of the Greek colonels we put in power in 1967, or Okinawans venting their rage over the 60-year occupation of their island by our military. Guatemalans, Cubans, Congolese, Brazilians, Argentines, Indonesians, Palestinians, Panamanians, Vietnamese, Cambodians, Filipinos, South Koreans, Taiwanese, Nicaraguans, Salvadorans, and many others had good reason to attack us. The Bush administration, however, did everything in its power to divert us from thinking that our own actions might have had something to do with such suicidal attacks on us. At a press conference on October 11th, 2001, the president posed the question, "How do I respond when I see that in some Islamic countries there is vitriolic hatred for America?" He then answered himself, "I'll tell you how I respond. I'm amazed that there's such misunderstanding of what our country is about that people would hate us. I am, like most Americans. I just can't believe it because I know how good we are." Bush has, of course, never once allowed that the United States might bear some responsibility for what happened on 9/11. In a 2004 commencement address at the Air Force Academy, for instance, he asserted, "No act of America explains terrorist violence, and no concession of America could appease it. The terrorists who attacked our country on September 11th, 2001, were not protesting our policies. They were protesting our existence." But Osama bin Laden made clear why he attacked us. In a videotaped statement broadcast by Al Jazeera on October 7th, 2001, a few weeks after the attacks, he gave 3 reasons for his enmity against the United States. The U.S. imposed sanctions against Iraq from 1991 to 9/11. Quote, 1 million Iraqi children have thus far died, although they did not do anything wrong. Unquote. American policies toward Israel and the occupied territories. Quote, I swear to God that America will not live in peace before peace reigns in Palestine. Unquote. The stationing of U.S. troops and the building of military bases in Saudi Arabia. Quote, and before all the army of infidels, American soldiers, depart the land of Muhammad, Saudi Arabia. Unquote. Not a word about Muslim rage against Western civilization. No sign that his followers were motivated by, as the president would put it, hatred for the values cherished in the West, such as freedom, tolerance, prosperity, religious pluralism, and universal suffrage. No support for New York Times correspondent Thomas Friedman's contention that the hijackers had left no list of demands because they had none, that their act was their demand. End quote. The attempt to disguise or avoid the policy-based reasons for 9/11 fed the rantings of Christian fundamentalists in the United States. Televangelist Pat Robertson, later joined by Jerry Falwell, declared that liberal civil liberties groups, feminists, homosexuals, and abortion rights supporters bear some responsibility for the terrorist attacks because their actions have turned God's anger against America. And they launched a hate campaign against all Muslims. Jimmy Swaggart called Muhammad a sex deviant and a pervert, and suggested that Muslim students in the United States be expelled. The Pentagon added its bit of insanity to this religious mix when Army Lieutenant General William G. Jerry Boykin, Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence,